Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to In the Real. This is Eric, your host. I'm here with Cheryl and Jen. Say hello.
Hello. Hello.
Oh, almost stereo sounding, right? So once again, we're playing with new stuff. We got another piece of equipment, some headphone stuff. That shit you guys don't hear, but we got new mics, and Cheryl's back. She from her sabbatical.
Yes.
From the other night.
Yes.
We were talking about her. For those that didn't listen to the last episode, we were talking about alcoholism.
Oh boy. Awesome.
We were getting drunk.
While we were getting drunk, too. We were sucking
I was getting
down
a little
alcohol.
sloppy at the end there.
No, I was hammered already when we started, and I still had a glass or so to go. So we served that real well. You should listen to it. It's actually kind of funny.
All right.
What we did was, I'm guessing it was probably 25, 30 minutes of research each, just looking up different pieces of information, and then we went through it and talked
like
a little bit
facts and tests and symptoms, stuff like that. So it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, we actually did take a test. I took mine online. I had the results, and you had to take it online to get the results. So I printed it out, and then Jen and I answered them while we were talking about it. So it was kind of interesting.
Interesting.
But
now we're all three here together again, so we're back talking about Stephen Avery.
That's right, the Making a Murder Netflix series. Stephen Avery, we watched episodes 7 and 8. We're going to talk about them.
Did we already talk about 6?
Yes, we did.
Oh, I didn't think we did.
We most certainly did. We squeezed that one in last time. We were trying to keep things down.
That's what happened.
Yeah,
okay, we didn't do the 2 and 2 and 2. Okay, got it.
Right. But so, if I remember right, Jen, you primarily went off your notes last time. Mm-hmm. And Cheryl, did you want to do that route? No? Okay, we'll play off of mine. So let's try to keep with the timeline. If I'm jumping further ahead on stuff and you have stuff to go back with, just say so. We'll back up and talk about what you got, and then we'll go back forward. So, starting with episode 7, there was a good guy in there, and I don't have his full name. It's Pete.
Oh, I have that.
I have it.
I got a note that says Boots, but I know
Pete
that it's
Bates.
So you know what it is?
Your
my
handwriting.
My horseshit handwriting. It was an A, so I had it right. I just couldn't read my writing.
My name's Boots with a Z at the end.
Right.
No.
And an A after the B. So the opening line in episode 7 I found interesting. It was about Manitowoc County only assisting with the investigation. And they started talking a little bit about that, and that's where the gentleman Pete was talking. If I remember, he was the one saying all this, that even though Manitowoc County was supposed to only be assisting because of the conflict of interest with the lawsuit that was previously happening, he found it in his statements to be very unprofessional and inappropriate that they had anything ever to do with being on that property. And I'm going a little verbatim there. He was pretty much saying they should have never even been close to that area.
Nope.
They should have just been the other police officers, which, if I remember right now, the other county, and I can't remember the name of that one.
Calumet.
Yeah.
Okay, that they were doing the investigating, and they went in the property a couple, 3-4 times, and then Manitowoc came in, and then all the evidence was found.
Right. Manitowoc County was responsible for finding most of the evidence, wasn't it? Or all of it.
All of it.
Yeah.
All of it.
And yet that other county, after 2, 3, 4 visits, whatever it was, they didn't find shit, and they looked in the same damn places.
Yeah.
So, from my opinion, that's very suspect right there. I don't understand how you can look at that and go, oh, well, how did you people miss this? Well, apparently we're better than you.
Right.
Even though we have a conflict of interest here.
Exactly.
Well, I thought it was also suspicious that basically it was Ken Kratz sitting there saying that Manitowoc's role was only to provide items needed for assisting in the investigation. And he was so adamant about it, and, basically saying that they're going to take a back seat, which they never did.
Right.
That, to me, it's like when he said we're only assisting in finding items for the investigation, my first thought was, you mean all the setup material, right?
That was Pagel, actually. I wrote it down. Jim Pagel was the one
did he say that?
said, he said.
Maybe that's why I thought it, because somebody had said it before.
Well, that was like right after the opening statement of Pete Bates, that then they showed Pagel on the stand, or no, in the press conference, saying that Manitowoc County was needed to provide items, of course, because they already had them in property. Why would they not,
I hear what you're saying. I think his statement was partial, where we might be taking that a little out of context, because he was referring to, so we're being a little, facetious about it.
Yeah.
But to be honest with the story on his testimony, he was speaking directly to Manitowoc County providing equipment and the tools necessary for the investigation, those types of items.
Yeah.
But oddly enough, where that statement comes in, we kind of, joking about it, they provided a lot more than just those items.
Right, exactly.
as our opinions would be.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of comes into light and humor that way. And in watching the series, you almost get that feeling.
Yeah.
And it would be bad if that's really what they're trying to press upon,
Right.
But
Right.
I don't think that was the intentions of the series, but
just came out that way.
right. But that's certainly the way it would appear.
Yeah.
Moving on from there, my next note, the officer that was watching Officer Link,
Sergeant William Tyson.
William Tyson,
Okay. Calling that.
during his first inspection, from what my notes are kind of saying here, he didn't see any evidence found, which was found on their second entry of the location with different officers. Mm-hmm. So the testimony that was going on is the officer that was supposed to be quote unquote babysitting the Manitowoc County officers from going in the property again, which is about number 5 entry or some shit like that in total.
I think it was third or fourth.
Was it third or fourth?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That officer testified, and you need to understand this. This guy was babysitting these Manitowoc County officers, which was Link and that other ass clown, Colburn.
And Remiker.
Yep.
And when he was in there with them, observing closely, never saw any of those items, and he made the statement to the effect that he was there and he saw those areas. That stuff wasn't there.
Right. Right.
But then they returned with another officer who was, we find out later on, was communicated the information on his purpose being there slightly different, so he wasn't keeping as close of an eye. And then the shit was found.
That's right.
The key and all this other evidence.
Well, with the first guy, did you guys notice that Buting, Jerry Buting, even pointed out, he's like, is there any time else in your career that you've been asked to babysit another department? Right. And he was like, no, never. Nope. And he said, would it be possible for them to basically plan evidence? And he was like, well, he goes, yeah, I mean, I suppose they could. He wasn't there on the 8th, so that's when the key was found. That's what he said. I wasn't there on the 8th. And even I suppose they could because he was off doing other things,
right. And even when he was there, right, he was taking pictures.
I think that was the other guy. He just wasn't, he wasn't in there the whole time with them.
Okay. But yeah.
You mean the second guy? That wasn't
the first guy.
The first guy.
Yep.
From what I got from his testimony, I got the impression that he was like on their hip. He never left their side.
Okay.
But maybe I misunderstood that part. Okay. But the other guy, he was just kind of lollygagging and just being on the land, not watching them.
Right. Well, he wasn't even under the impression that
he had to babysit.
That they were that Manitowoc was even deposed in the case.
Right.
Yeah.
And he was the one that said, the second officer said that his actual observation, it was possible for stuff to be planted. Yeah. He said he searched the nightstand. Yeah. And
it was turned. Or something like that.
Right. And he said he handled it pretty roughly,
Yeah.
But then he was off taking pictures when suddenly Lank, Colburn, and Remiker, whatever, were in the bedroom, and Lank supposedly found the key.
Right, on November 8th. The third search. The third time that they were there or something like that. That's what I have in my notes.
Right. And they're like, so the first time you were in the bedroom, the key was not there. And he said, correct. Right. It was not there.
Yep.
He said the bookshelf was pulled away and searched. Didn't hear anything drop, and then, Buting was going to do a demonstration with the keys. Do you remember that? He was going to, well, what if I drop them on the floor right now?
Right.
And Ken Kratz, right, it goes,
what are we trying to do here, Judge? Is this an experiment?
I mean, his whiny fucking...
I'm so bored voice.
Right.
And it's like we would need to recreate the conditions.
And this guy is just a piece of shit.
Yeah. Just like squeezing his penis underneath the desk.
Yes, exactly.
What is it? It's like, really, it's carpet. It's carpet. Whatever it is, you're going to hear something drop, especially with the thin carpet that you see kind of in the pictures, even in the courtroom. It's not like thick carpet like, we have or whatever. It doesn't really matter. There's going to be a sound. And if you're searching as a police officer of residence, you hear something like that, you're going to look. You're going to come, it's going to come to your attention.
Absolutely. I wouldn't disagree with that at all. And what something else I found a little strange was the pre-pictures before the key.
Yeah.
The slippers were sitting there.
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the picture with the key being there, the slippers are moved, flipped over, as if the slippers were sitting on something.
Well, that's what they said. They found him under the slippers.
Right. Now, if something fell off the nightstand that was roughly handled, it would have been under the damn slippers.
That's what Dean Strang even said that when he and Jerry were talking. He's like, things fall straight down thanks to gravity.
Right.
It's like they don't slide sideways and underneath.
Underneath stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
The key crawled under there. It was scared.
Yeah, it was scared.
It was scared for its life. It didn't know what to do.
Right.
It got scrubbed so vigorously clean from any DNA trace. And then, I don't know, what we just get violated with somebody else's. It just was uncomfortable. Yeah.
Well, did you guys see Lang's reaction too when they said, well, you guys had already searched the bookcase, right?
Right.
And Lang was like, well, Colburn had taken everything out of there. He's like, did you look inside it? He's like, well, I didn't look inside it, but, I glanced. I didn't see a key. Yeah. It's just like, yeah. Defensive much? Right. I mean, well, I didn't really go in there and look. I didn't stick my head in there. I don't think that's what they asked.
Well, who took the picture of the inside of the bookcase? Because I could take a head motion to the side, glance in there, and notice not a fucking shiny thing was in there.
Wide open.
Right.
It's not like there's even shelves in it. It's
nothing.
one big open space.
Right. A couple of slot dividers.
Right.
You would have seen a key in there.
Oh, hell yeah.
Right. And taking the picture, you'd have saw something. There was nothing in there. And fallen from where? If he taped it to somewhere, where's the piece of tape? If he was hiding it anywhere? I mean...
Was there a hole maybe where the key fell through?
Right.
Why didn't they take closer pictures of it?
Exactly.
Investigate any open cavities or anything in the bookshelf?
Because that would only destroy them planting evidence, wouldn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's amazing just picking apart that whole situation with the finding of the key, of how is it that key got to where it was, if after 4 or 5 times, 2 or 3 looking there, you never found it. And from my understanding, the Avery family in their entirety hadn't yet been back in the house.
Right. They have
so
not.
No.
how would you have missed something like that many times? And then the one time where nobody's watching you find it.
Right. And the only opportunity for anything to be moved is by police enforcement or, police officers. So you're telling me that they're that dumb that shit gets shuffled around that much?
Right.
And they don't thoroughly investigate areas before they start piling other shit up and then taking it back? And it doesn't make any sense.
So how many other cases have they fucked up by not investigating well or moving stuff well enough?
Right. Kind of makes it a question, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're that inept at what you're doing, you needed 6 times to go in here?
Yeah.
Well, just to make a point that I've been thinking about, this episode, I think, is one of the most frustrating for me. I think it was probably this one more so than any other that I noticed when it comes down to this one and possibly the next, about how shitty the investigation and the law enforcement was at this case, just, from what we've seen. Yeah. It's ridiculous to see how that they went about doing the things that they did and the illegal things that they did and writing, reports months to years later. It's just really crappy investigative material, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. It was unprofessional at best. And then the terrible way everything was handled, you lose confidence in your law enforcement agencies. And of course, this one just takes the bigger hit, in my opinion.
Right.
There's nothing good about it.
Yeah. No,
I don't know.
That's the other thing. A lot of people that, haven't watched this and are still criticizing it. It's like, excuse me. That's
smoker's cough, people.
It's one of the reasons that I would encourage people to watch it, even if you don't agree with the prosecution side, even if you think he's guilty, even if you hate him. I don't care what it is. I would still want people to watch, because just seeing how this stuff is put together and how it's presented, you can't help but feel certain items are like, whoa, that's not right.
Right.
That's not how real law enforcement does things, or what I would like to think is real law enforcement. That's not how the FBI handles things. That's not how a scientific biologist would handle something. I mean, there's so many pieces that are suspect. That's really what I think the focus is on, about how shittily this was put together.
Shittily,
Slapdash.
I like that.
Yeah. It was just slapdash and let's just do whatever we can. It feels wrong. It just feels wrong, plain and simple.
At this point, if you looked at their claims on the first time they convicted Stephen, We got our guy. It doesn't matter. It's good enough. We don't need any more information. We don't need to worry about any of that. That's that big freaking deal bit. It's almost the exact same conditions here.
Except on steroids.
Yeah, it's like, well, it might not be accurate, but we can make it look accurate.
Mm-hmm.
We can say it is, and people will buy that.
That's what it feels like to me, too. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
It's just unreal. So my next one up here, let's see. I haven't read my notes ahead, so I'm kind of reading them off here and trying to get the memory jogged. Sergeant, was his last name Colburn? Colburn, yep. So he took a call in 1984/85 was the statement made in testimony. That phone call was while what I just mentioned, the previous case, Stephen Avery, was in jail, in prison, convicted wrongly at this point that we know of for the sexual assault. And that call, the information contained in it was from another deputy in another county who had passed on information that they have in their custody. What's that guy's name?
Gregory Allen.
He was in their custody claiming to have committed that crime.
Right.
Well, he didn't say that specific crime, just a crime that you guys have somebody already incarcerated for.
Okay, that's a good point. What we learned earlier on that the information was passed exactly, that's what they were talking about, I guess.
Right.
So I should relay that correctly. So that they had somebody in prison for something that hadn't happened. And I can't remember out of that if in this testimony in episode 7, if they actually did mention that information was passed along on the phone call or not, like you're saying. So maybe that's not right. But Colburn, whatever the hell his name is, claims no info about Stephen in any way was in that phone call. But that's where I think it's coming into where the information was actually inaccurate. That he had that data from that phone call, and made no reports on it.
Right. Just transferred it to
another detective
or something
yet
like that.
no other reports were made from that person either. But yet, from earlier on, they had the reports from the other county very clearly explaining what they did, the information they passed. And this guy says, no, I didn't hear any of that.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lie right there in the stand.
Yeah.
How do you not go, well, your testimony is all bullshit?
Contempt of court,
Right.
False statements right there. What the hell?
Yeah.
Well, there's actually many circumstances like that, because my next point was that Detective Lenk volunteered to be one of the people who searched Avery's residence. And he tried to lie. He was like, no, I didn't volunteer. They asked me for my help.
Right.
And so Dean was like, well, let me show you something here.
Yeah.
So he read him his prior statement. And he's like, so do you remember that now? He's like, well, if I said it, I must have said it.
Right. There you go. You just lied on stand.
So, and he didn't mention that he was deposed just 3 to 4 weeks prior.
Right.
And he admitted when Dean was asking him, he's like, don't you think it would have been fair to tell your commanding officer that you were just deposed 3 to 4 months ago? Don't you think it would have been fair for the other officers that were working with you? Don't you think it would have been fair for Calumet that you would have told them? And he was
Wasn't
like,
it like 3-4 days, like a week ago or something like that? Because
3
that
to
was
4 weeks prior.
Yeah, it wasn't a very long period of time when they were going to search the property. I thought it was like leaving not even a week.
This is funny, and this to me shows how much Lenk actually hates Stephen, because when they asked him, or when Dean asked him, don't you think it would have been fair for Stephen, more fair for Stephen Avery if you had mentioned to your prior officers that you were? He's like, no, absolutely not.
Right. Right.
But he said,
yes, and no, because it has to do with him. Fuck him, I hate him.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty much what he said.
It's fair to everybody else but him.
Right.
Because he might have benefited. That's not fair.
Right.
So there's another one. He lied right there.
And that's just his character too. I mean, how do you at a jury not just look at that and go, what an asshole?
Right.
And to have Colburn's lie on top of that, and the other lies that they've uncovered, people on the stand. Oh, well, this is what you said 3 weeks before, or whatever.
Right.
And they're like, oh, how did, I don't understand how the jury didn't see that and put it all together.
Right.
To me, it's very clear, but we weren't there, so I'm sure there's a lot of shit that we're not hearing.
We even question it or look at it as just being plainly suspect, like, well, this stuff, how can we believe the accuracy of this and just go from, looking at it from that perspective?
Right. And for me, being somebody who thinks that I'm pretty just, if I was on the stand and a police officer was corrected like that, I'd be like, you fucking liar.
Right.
I wouldn't forget that.
Right.
I would not forget that.
Yeah.
I'd be like, that guy's a fucking liar.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, even that brings me to my next point is that one, another thing that was kind of I don't know, that I wrote down was that Lank denied the fact that it would have been fair for completely some other county to have done the search without them. You know, he just was like, no. Why were they so involved in the search? Why? Because they had a case court against him, which they were failing, you know, which they were bound to lose. Mm-hmm. So why? It's just suspicious that they were so involved and that he volunteered and that they were the one who found the evidence. And when this case was ruling against them, you know, that just brought me to my other note. But yeah. Well,
one of the other points with that phone call, that evidence, is the report that that sergeant actually made then for that incident. 8 years later, after he's arrested for this next crime, he writes a report about it.
The fuck is that? Who writes a report 8 years later?
Right. Now, and of course, let's be clear. He did testify to the fact that it was just a statement. He didn't write a report. Right. But if you're going off your memory from 8 years ago, your statement's going to be pretty, I don't know, bland. Right. There's not going to be a lot of detail to it. Yeah. So how is that even good for any side of saying, oh yeah, this is what happened there? Yeah. Okay, why don't we take the report from 8 years ago and use that as evidence showing what actually was passed on?
Because that was taken at the time.
Right. To show what kind of character you are with handling important information and how it pertains to this particular individual. Right. Obviously, not on a good rate at all, you know.
Well, then even after all that, Kratz got up there and said, oh, it's deplorable, absolutely deplorable to accuse the sheriff's office of planting evidence without evidence of it. It's like, what? Did you even make a sentence there? I mean, you fucking moron. It's deplorable. You're deplorable.
Right. Then I love how, like, towards the end, you know, he tries to persuade the jury of, do you really want to convict your officers?
Your hardworking officers.
Right. It's like, wow. He just...
Actually, this trial was about the conviction of Stephen Avery.
Right.
Not the officers. No. He should have been stricken from the record of even being considered in his closing argument.
Yeah.
Because he's not... The jury is not making any kind of decision based on anything to convict any police officers. That has nothing to do with this case. It's just evidence.
He was making a strong case of saying that if they did prove or say that Stephen Avery was guilty, they're basically saying that the police department is guilty, is what he was trying to do.
And that's speculation.
It's speculation. Right. It should have been stricken. And then, he's sitting there going, think about their families, think about their careers, think about their reputation. And it's like, what about Stephen's?
What about Stephen Avery's family? What about
all
his
of those
feelings?
things with him?
Exactly.
What about the guy who's actually on trial there? Once you think about him and his family and the evidence against him.
But that's the thing about Kratz. He's all about himself. He's so fluffed up in the head that he can only think about himself and the department, and he'll do anything he can to win that case, including obviously scandalous things, which we'll get to, later.
Yeah. I almost felt bad for Andrew Colburn.
I did not feel bad for
it's
that
like
cocksucker.
I felt bad for him, but I still dislike him. But it kind of feels like when he's giving his statements, he's just kind of like, I don't know why I'm being told to hate this guy. I just fucking have to. I'm being paid to, or whatever. I'm being directed to. He's like, he doesn't even really grasp the whole concept of why he was, told to lie or told to deceive or whatever it was.
You're looking at him like a ragamuffin kitten that's basically being carried around or whatever. Yeah. I don't look at him like that. I think he's a despicable human being. Okay. And I think he is easily manhandled, but at the same time, he's a fucking asshole too.
Okay. Well, just being a little bit on the devil's advocate side to giving the guy the benefit of the doubt. What if his intellect is not that much higher than Stephen Avery and easily convinced to be swayed one way or the other and without any point or purpose? So he's there making his statements that are really accurate, but it was based on information or instruction on what to do and when to do it at the time, so he doesn't understand what it is he did wrong.
You know what the difference is? I'll tell you what the difference is, at least for me. The difference for me is personality and believability. There's nothing that connects me to Andrew Colburn to make me think that he's telling the truth. Right. There's nothing to make me feel emotionally about him that he's actually striving for anything and going, no, there's no justification in any of his answers. He has no emotions, and I think it's because he knows he's wrong because he's too stupid to do anything else.
Yeah.
So I think he was instructed, just give the straight facts, don't make any faces,
Sure.
don't say anything, just I don't recall.
And that's kind of my point, though.
But the thing is, Stephen Avery has everything to lose, more than this guy, I would think, and I feel differently about him.
Okay. But along those lines, he's just doing what he's instructed to do, and I wouldn't disagree that even if that's the situation that I'm explaining, that he doesn't understand the difference between right and wrong, and what he's doing is probably not honest.
I think he knows the difference, right?
Oh,
But that's
absolutely.
the thing, is he's willing to do what's wrong, whereas it seems to me Stephen Avery's focused on trying to do what's right. You can be dumb, you can be innocent, you can be whatever, but you know right from wrong.
Oh, absolutely. But at the same time, just giving him the benefit of the doubt, is he just doing that in fear of his own position in life, and still not thinking that he's not really doing anything. He's just doing what he's told. I mean,
Right. He was kind of just basically looped into the whole thing, into the whole case because of that one conversation.
Right.
That he didn't record, that he didn't do maybe what he was properly
exactly.
trained
That's
to
kind of
do.
my point. Maybe back in 95, he didn't make the report because when he passed it on and went and told somebody, they're like, yeah, don't worry about it. Should I make a report? Nah, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So he's like, well, they know better than me. I'm just a corrections officer guy. And then here we are 8 years later. I'm like, oh,
shit, I should have.
I don't really remember a lot lot about that day in his statement. I got a call. I don't remember what was that. I mean, it doesn't make it acceptable. I'm not defending the guy and his actions,
not at all.
but it just goes to show, in my opinion, what the other people are capable of in that facility of manipulating people they need to manipulate.
Yeah.
And that just puts another nail in that coffin of them being that bad. So I'm not trying to argue with what you're saying, Jen.
I'm not trying to say. I'm just saying me personally.
Okay.
I don't excuse his behavior
No,
whatsoever.
and I don't either, and I definitely don't think it's justified.
Right.
He just looks like he's in a position that he doesn't feel he can go against.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
because he's going against his boss and his employment and what he did maybe or didn't do back in the day that maybe he should have, should have rethought or maybe made his own decision.
If he came out and just said, I can't do this, and then publicly said I'm lying about this, I'm just doing what they told me, I don't think this is right, blah, 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 who's going to get crucified here?
Exactly, him.
He's going to get blamed for all the wrongdoing shit, lose his job, go to jail, and then nobody else is going to get hurt.
I don't know. I don't think they'd hit him that hard if he actually told the truth. That's the thing.
Think about it.
Even him losing his job is
That's a big deal.
Right, he would lose his job, and his family would have to probably move away or whatever. But you're still playing on the right or wrong thing.
But he would have been committing crimes. And think about what they're doing.
He already
to
is
this.
committing crimes.
Right, and I understand that. But think about it from his position. Even if he decided to come out, but I could get in trouble now, and then all of a sudden, knowing what they're doing to this guy, what are they going to do to me?
Right.
I mean, you almost put yourself in the corner, and then you let them put the dragons in front of you and said, now do something. I'm not going to do anything.
Right.
So, but he's a cop, and he's doing what every standard criminal does, lies on top of more lies, until you get caught later, and then you're going to be in real big trouble.
Exactly, and that's that's the shit of it, unfortunately. And we're just speculating that's the deal. I mean, it was just interesting to just look at that in an orb and kind of figure, well, is that the situation? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't.
Right.
But yeah, he only really knows. So.
Yeah, I agree.
At that point in the show, and I might have missed some notes at the time from my last note and moving on, but. Still in episode 7, defense attorneys at that point were feeling pretty good about their progress in the case. They really found the jury responding to the things they were bringing up, the speculation, the possibility of some dishonesty going on. They had that stuff. They were feeling confident.
Yeah.
And they got just deflated from some shit. It was just unbelievable after that. That's hard to take because they thought they were in the right. Going in the right direction, and things were going well. Yeah. They were making their point, making their case, and they weren't accusing anybody. They're just saying, "Hey, look at these facts."
Right.
And they got fucked out of that. That's sad. I just made a note about that. It was just depressing.
Yeah. Well, even the little minute facts that like 3 to 4 hours was only under the control of the Manitowoc County before they started logging people, and then Link, he signed out, but he never signed in on November 5th. Just the little facts here and there that where it's just like, well, where did this portion of time go?
Right.
It's just unaccounted for, and everybody's just accepting that.
Well, it's funny because Link said, he got there around 2 p.m. and the officer that was saying, "Oh yeah, I was there and I was, told to start a log, and he was there at 10 a.m. Said he didn't really even start it until
2:15.
2:45.
Yeah,
2:45 or
something like that. Even though he had been there since 10:30 a.m.
4 hours unaccounted for. Right.
And so Lang said, yeah, I got there around 2 p.m. Didn't check in, but signed out at 2:45. Right. And then, but when he was deposed, his testimony, which again they had to read back to him because they were like, "Are you sure about that?"
Yeah.
When he was deposed, he said he was there at 6:30 or 7 p.m. Said I wasn't sure. But he wasn't on the log either way then at 6:30 and 7 p.m. when they had already started the log at 2:45.
Right, but signed out before he claimed to have shown up.
Right.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
And something
just
that
another lie.
something in the closing statements that you hear, and I can't remember, I think it's at the end of 7, was the defense attorneys pointing out at that time of year in Wisconsin, here in Minnesota too, 2 o'clock in the afternoon to 6 p.m., that's sunshine or butt-ass dark out.
Right.
You would know the difference.
Oh, hell yeah.
I don't care
Especially
how stupid you
November.
are.
Yeah, November.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're going to know the damn difference between 2 and 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay. And the only note I had on that was Fossbender, his point, or something he claimed to us, or that he did say.
Yeah.
He did not find any issue with the conflict of interest concern with Manitowoc being with the vehicle for 4 hours alone.
Wow. Right.
He said that in there when they questioned him. No, I didn't find a problem with that. What do you mean? You have a conflict of interest in this person,
Right.
in this entire case,
Yeah.
and your county, anybody is around that vehicle for 4 hours unaccounted by themselves.
Yeah.
You should be irate that that's happening because some shit could come out from that.
Absolutely.
In which it is. But you don't find a problem with that? Come on.
Right. Right. That's a huge point.
Somebody should have been standing there from Manitowoc County going, no. Stay the hell away from there. Let the other people go and look at it.
Or have some kind of video recording of it.
Right. I mean, but that, in my opinion, on switch, off switch, that there's no, it's not impossible to, make video look the way you want it either. But if you really were looking at convicting this person on honest stuff, you probably did everything you could to keep people away from there so that it was investigated right.
Right.
But no, you had to go there.
Right.
Why?
And how far is Calumet County? I can't imagine it's 4 hours away.
I don't think it's
4 hours. It wouldn't take 4 hours for, to call another county.
Even if it did.
Right.
The car isn't going anywhere.
Right. Why would they not have immediately called
Barrier
another
that
county?
son of a bitch off and keep people away.
Right. If they were not guilty in this case, they would have immediately called another county and said, "We're not touching this."
That's right. Get over here. We found the car.
Exactly. Our hands are off.
That's
they
right.
were so involved. That's what drives me insane. They were so involved.
So that just brings up that other question. It's like, if you were concerned about the conflict of interest, if you were concerned with any of this even coming back on you, you'd have stayed away. But you weren't concerned for any of that.
No.
Well, and Pete Batz said that too. He was the private investigator.
Yep.
He said the conflict of interest is a serious misstep in this case.
Yeah.
So instead of backing off totally, they stayed involved,
Right.
committing themselves to proving that Steve was guilty.
And
all of the evidence that they found was from Manitowoc.
Right. And Manitowoc developed most of the evidence themselves.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And then I also found it interesting, honey, I didn't know if you had something in between this, but Colburn's report didn't mention the key. Andrew Colburn. Remember, he was there with Link and I think it was Chitskowski.
Is that the first guy?
Crazy. That's the guy we were just talking about, the moron that doesn't know right from wrong.
Okay.
So he was in the bedroom with Lincoln Chaharsky.
That's right.
And he said he was the one that handled the bookcase.
Right. Didn't he make a statement too? He never saw a key?
That's what I was saying.
Okay.
So, and
That's
then,
okay.
Yeah,
I remember
and
what you're
then
talking
Link,
about now.
Link even said, yeah. And he goes like, Detective Link said, oh, there's a key. But then in his report, they showed him, they're like, you have no mention of the key anywhere in your report. Your report is just these few or not even I think it's a paragraph and maybe a fraction of one about your involvement. So they thought that was really interesting that he never wrote a report or didn't mention the key in the report, never wrote a report on the conversation with the cop, Colin, with the other criminal. And then, 2003 finally wrote a report about, I think that was 8 years. Is that what it was?
Yep, 8 years.
8
which
years
is
after.
really just a statement, but they were calling it a report.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was just all of his stuff it's like, okay. And then his excuse was, well, I can't write a report on every call that I get. I've been writing reports all the time.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I love it.
You know, as a cop.
Cross-examination to that was so awesome. I loved it. Because what did they ask him then after that?
I didn't write it down. What
they said? Well, how many calls about wrongly convicted criminal do you get a day?
He's like, oh, I get that was probably the only one.
Yeah. How many have you ever had? That was the only one. How many calls about prisoners do you get every day?
Right.
Couple.
Right.
What the hell are you talking about writing reports all day then?
It's just a dope.
Yeah.
See, and even with that, you think about the report you're talking about that he wrote that he never saw a key. He's almost like this innocent bubblehead.
Not innocent.
That I shouldn't say innocent. Just almost childlike and like I didn't see anything to write about, so why did I?
He's
I guess
Gumby.
it was there.
He resembles
I think he's
a
an
lot
idiot.
of Brendan Dassey. Like just
there
kind
you
of
go.
Like,
Yeah.
Fuck, I don't know why the fuck I'm even here.
Except Brendan is way more innocent than this person. He
True, but
Like,
he's working for the county that's guilty, and yes, he had a few missteps in his life with this county, working for this correction officer. Working as a correction officer, he followed what they told him to do.
Right.
Followed the lead. He's just following what they're telling him to do, and kind of like, I don't really know why the fuck I'm here. But I'm going to do what I'm going to do to protect myself.
But I don't understand why they can make somebody like that a police officer.
Well,
You're fucking
you'd be surprised.
That is a very
You'd be
good question.
surprised.
But look at where they're at.
Right. You can imagine how many police officers there are out there. Not all of them are fucking superior intelligence,
And in that scenario, if you think about it, in that scenario, he's not necessarily a bad person, but he's put himself in the position of being one.
Right.
And of course, it's his responsibility. That's his choice. It's his fault for that. But that's, what almost it comes down to is just being an unfortunate situation. And he's still accountable for that.
Well, you're in a position to uphold the law and to stop criminals,
and
yet you have become a criminal.
Exactly.
You are now a criminal.
Yeah.
You are a bad guy.
If that situation is still has any accuracy to it, then you got to feel sorry for the guy because he's been manipulated into doing criminal things. And unfortunately, because you do still display abilities to knowing differences from wrong and right, you need to be accountable for that and pay for that.
Right.
Unlike somebody like Brendan Dassey, where, if somebody convinced him to take a knife and slash somebody's throat and try to kill somebody and rape them, it's his fault for doing them.
Right.
But at the same time, his mentality would almost be admissible as something to say that wasn't his fault.
Right.
He can't handle a decision like that.
Which would be technically, he'd be insane at that point.
Right. Or
so
just
if Andy
incapable.
Colburn is insane, then he doesn't need to be on the force.
No, I just think that he was really found in the wrong position, and now he's defending himself.
It's
I get it. I get it.
Shit,
right. I'm not defending him in any way. I don't think he's
Sounds
right.
like you are, but
no,
I get what you're saying.
What I'm saying.
I get what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
He just kind of fell between a rock and a hard place, and now he's trying to defend
I hate to
himself.
say fall, though. I think he put himself there.
Probably.
And
by making
the rock is just
missteps.
getting pushed closer.
help my buddies.
Right.
They're my real friends.
Right.
But I guess the point that I'm trying to make, and I understand both of your guys' point, is that we should not have people in law enforcement like that.
I agree with that 100%.
You can't throw warm bodies at law enforcement.
But how are you going to
need
filter
have
that out?
That's what I mean.
You know?
That's what I mean. You need the right people there,
Right.
but there has to be something that you can do. I mean, they do physical tests, they do psychological tests. They have to be able to have some IQ test.
Well, let's come into the city of Minneapolis police force here in our own state. There has been uprises about the police force being a certain percentage not African American, black, because they're not from Africa, they're from here. And the issue with that is finding qualified candidates to be police officers. And unfortunately, they get some that are a little power hungry, not too bright. They have the qualifications, however, and then they do some really bad shit, and then they have to deal with that.
Right.
But they're just trying to get people that qualify to be a police officer. And one of the minimal qualifications is having a high school diploma. And there are many black people in the city of Minneapolis, state of Minnesota, do not have that, so they can't be a police officer. So then because of that large population existing that way, that eliminates the possibility of making the police force a certain percentage
Okay.
of being black police officers.
Okay.
Well, if you then just start throwing those bodies out there, we're going to have the shit that's happening in Manitowoc County.
Right.
So you can't do that.
Right.
But there, now you're talking about a
smaller pool of people, which I understand.
Right. So
I do.
now all of a sudden, the less fortunate mentally get on the force. Right. And, if that's, again, this is our speculation that this is the situation. If that's what's happening, well, then now you got this guy on there that's easy to manipulate, most certainly an asset to them in that way. Yeah. And his life is screwed if he ever comes out, badly from this, and it's all his fault.
Yeah, I actually wrote down a comment where I kind of nicknamed him, I call him Doughhead.
Okay.
I have nicknames for certain people.
Yeah, they deserve them.
Yeah.
I had notes on that, the log for the car thing, we already covered that, which is unbelievably screwed up.
What was that?
The log for the car access.
Yeah.
And the detective Link not signing in but signing out in this time was all off.
Can I interject one thing? Because I think you're going to bypass it or whatever on accident. I just had to note the evidence box. What did you guys think about that evidence box?
That was my next note.
Filing system? Was it your next one?
My next note was that when we were seeing the evidence box, and I'll let you explain that, but my note on that situation that we were seeing in the show was pointing out the fact that Link had handled past evidence for Steven's original release, his release, not just his conviction.
Right.
He handled it for the release.
Wow.
And then he's handling all this other shit.
Yeah.
It's like, that should have been even a bigger red flag for yourself as a professional I'm not going anywhere near that fucking car because I'm not getting my fingers on that shit and making a mess.
Right.
But yeah, talking about that box, my God, what a disaster.
So it was just a cardboard box, which looked like they were moving.
Yeah.
With a bunch of files, no rhyme or reason. There was files sticking out everywhere. Pieces of paper looked like they were all jumbled together and wrinkled and whatever. Boxes, some, certain things sticking out of the box. I mean, it was overflowing.
Right.
But not to exclude now, this box of all that, those reports, that paper mixed in there, physical evidence, because they had the styrofoam box, the blood just laid on the top.
Wow.
They had the hair samples, they had the fingernail scrapings because that was from the wrongfully accused case.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it looked like a box from a hoarder's basement.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, there was no top to it. Right. She was like, "Well, I was thinking I should probably fold it over a little bit," but they're like, Dean was hysterical. He was like, "Well, you kind of got that little thing on the side that might be hard." Yeah, it'd be hard. I couldn't get it over that.
Yeah, no matter what you tried, it's going to not close right. Yeah.
I mean, just pointing out the fact you don't have a filing system at all. How can you possibly have correct records and evidence?
Right.
That
With
can be
important stuff
accountable
like
for.
this.
Right.
Which he also did point out, which I thought was very important, but I don't think in that area people think of this. In an area unsecure, it looks secure to any civilians, but not secure by people who work there.
Right.
Because they said the officers in the higher ranking positions, everybody had a key to the evidence room, and it's not manned 24/7.
Yeah.
Right.
You go downtown Minneapolis, that thing's manned 24/7.
You bet. Yeah. You're signing in, you're signing out. You
right.
take anything in and out, it is logged.
Yeah.
Who has it?
Right.
Not for anybody else. You have it. Well, not there. It didn't matter.
And not saying that things never go missing in big counties either, because I'm sure, you just stuff it in your pants.
Right.
But,
we're not checking everything.
Right. But it's so unsecure. It's literally like an office building.
But the good thing is, it is difficult to get away with that, though, when there's proper logging done.
Right.
Because if somebody else comes behind, goes in there, I can't find this. Who was the last person in here? That shit is recorded. So you can go ask that person, what were you digging for?
Yep. Right.
And now that name is written down somewhere as this went missing between this point and this point, and we need to know.
And basically how it sounded like is Manitowoc has no security measures whatsoever around their evidence room.
None.
Yeah.
Which is another red flag. And I think they would have benefited by just saying that straight out, and maybe they did. We didn't obviously see it, but it was implied.
Yeah.
It's Just bad. And moving on to that evidence stuff, I don't know, did you have anything further around that?
No, just the test after that.
Yep, then the EDTA test is my next note for the EDTA test is what it's called, which is the preservative in a purple top blood tube used at any medical facility. The tube, not the test.
Right.
It's an anticoagulation, so it keeps the blood liquid for longer.
Yep. So this test, we're going to learn what you can and can't do with it. But the last person or people to ever do this test was the FBI a decade prior.
Yeah.
And somehow the state was able.
They stopped using it. Let's just say that. They stopped using it because it was unreliable.
Right.
This Buting looked into it and they said nobody does this test anymore because it's unreliable, so they stopped using it and having it be admissible in court.
But the unreliability about it was the difficulty in detecting it. It's like you could find it, but if you didn't find it, and this is the technician pointed this out, if you didn't find the traces of it, it doesn't mean it's not there.
Right.
It just means that you either can't see it and it's there, or it isn't there.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where the unreliability
But she
came
said
in.
it could just be undetectable with the test because it's been proven to be unreliable.
Right.
Janine
Yes.
Arivizu.
Arvizu or something? I'm not sure.
Yep, she was an
ARI?
Arvize.
No, Arivizu.
I wrote it down differently.
Okay. What was her first name? Janine.
Yep. And the Mark LeBeau, who was before her, was completely fucking worthless.
Well, let's get to that too, because here, all of a sudden, Buting was talking about. They said it would take 4 to 6 months to even create a test like that, and somehow Manitowoc was able to convince the FBI to create the test, which before they said we can't do. And so not only did they do it, but it was just a few days.
Right.
All of a sudden available within a few days.
And I think, was it Pete again spoke on that in that episode? He was talking about how it is that they convinced the FBI to retool their equipment, calibrate it to run these tests in such a short period of time.
Right.
Because nobody else would be able to get them to do that.
No, and Buting said that this is the first judge that has allowed EDTA in a test like this to be admissible because this test hasn't been used since the OJ case.
And it's unreliable.
Yeah.
And involving in that test, a question that I posed while we were watching it is, they pointed out in there was 6 total swab samples for which they sent only 3.
Right. The fuck.
And that LeBeau guy said 50%. This I'm kind of telling you exactly what he said without saying the words.
Not verbatim, right?
50% of the available swabs being tested is adequate enough to conclude
100%.
100%. There's no EDTA in any of the cases.
Without testing the other 3. And that again is what Janine reviewed it. Because they asked her that. They were like, so, would you say because the 3 swabs didn't have the EDTA in it, that the other 3 would also, she goes, she was laughing. She's like, I can't answer that question. She's like, I work in physical science. She's like, I would need to test all samples. That's what we do.
Right. That's why
she goes, to legitimately give you an answer, I would need to test all the samples.
Right. And you think that that's what they would do, being the
But
FBI.
they didn't.
Right.
And so then the question that I posed was this. Obviously they didn't. But didn't they? Why wouldn't they send a sample from the tube as a control sample to even see if they can detect it in there?
Yeah.
If you could detect it in there,
there you go.
Then you could more reasonably say, well, we didn't find it in the swabs, though. But we did find it in here. Well, now, of course, you're balancing the amount that you had to work with. It's probably a lot easier to find it then.
Right.
But
you would at least have some kind of calibration of a base.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is how well we're able to detect it in a sample. We know it's in there in a consistency of some kind. And in this one, we're not finding it. This one, it's almost hitting something, but it's still a no. I mean, you would get a basis for something, but they didn't even do that.
Right.
It's like, how could you ever, that LeBeau guy, that's what struck me, as calling yourself a scientist.
And giving that kind of evidence as evidence.
And saying, this is my conclusion, exactly, when you don't even have the data.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah, they didn't test everything. Yeah, and he was kind of I don't know, his whole character I question. You know,
He was weird.
He was. It's almost like he was brought in as like, hey, this guy's my buddy. He'll fucking back me up.
It's Grant's butt pirate buddy.
That's what it kind of looked like.
Yeah. He was brought in from the FBI. Was never
didn't care for him.
The letter that he was introduced with.
Yep.
Never said, you know, we're trying to eliminate any corruption of, you know, any materials or evidence.
And the reason that that's important is because when they initially talked to him, they said, why was the FBI even involved? And he said, because he's like, well, part of the FBI's, what would you, like under their realm,
their job, their responsibility.
What part of their responsibility is for crimes of the public corruption.
Right.
So investigating police departments that they, you know, maybe should or shouldn't be there or whatever.
And the accusations were there, so they were...
Right, but, like Cheryl's saying, and they actually brought the letter out, the initial letter that went to this guy, it mentioned nothing about police corruption. It was only about the EDTA and testing for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, it was weird.
And then, did you guys see the other prosecutor? I never catch this guy's name. He's just like this squirrely looking, I don't know, he looks like he has a dead rodent on his head.
Never got his name.
And he was just giddy afterward. Did you see him? Like the day before, he was like, no more questions. Blah, blah, blah. Am I down there? Am I down here? And then after this testimony, he was like, hi. Yeah. So we thought it went really well today. It just, what the hell do they have? They just have teenage mindsets.
Yeah, that is something to point out. That guy, he gets a little whipped up. He was all pissed off about accusing the police officers and vocal about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
But when it came down to reasonable doubt, then he was really clammed up. Right. But then when something kind of comes out in his favor, which in my eyes, that testimony from those technicians, those analysts, were not in their favor.
Right.
But they took it that was.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then he was all hyper and excited about it.
I thought it was very curious after the Janine Arvizu, her testimony, that shortly after that, the defense draws to drop the false imprisonment.
Right.
Like almost immediately. What was it, like 2 or 3 days after? They're like, oh,
well, it was
we're going to drop
the
false imprisonment. Yeah. It's like, why? Because you're guilty?
Yeah, because
you know
happy.
that you're
Well, the defense
caught?
petitioned for it, which was the last added charge.
Okay. Right.
After the fact.
Yeah. After Brendan was arrested.
Right.
Because they added 3 more charges. This was the last thing that needed to get dropped because of that.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why they petitioned for it, because they, again, had proven that there's no evidence that anybody was ever bound anywhere.
Right.
You know, but oddly enough, they were able to prove that, and the judge goes, yeah, you're right, there is no evidence for that. But yet, he couldn't see that there was no evidence that there was a body cut in that bed.
Right.
This guy's a moron.
No. Yeah, the judge is a moron.
I have to put in one thing before we move on, because we kind of skipped over. It was just something I noted. Everybody always talks about Dean Strang, you know, and how wonderful he is, and now he's kind of like a sex icon in the, you know, and people are like, hey,
in the lawyer
Dean,
community.
yeah. But then, did you hear, like, this is like way at the end too, they were reading kind of comments about themselves on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
Dean and Jerry was like, Beauty was like, I find him like aggressive or something like that, or like he seems like he's crazy. Just like really derogatory things. And I just want to say, I don't feel comfortable putting Jerry Buting in the background, because this guy, he has heart too. He may not, you know, show it the way that Dean does, but this guy worked his ass off as well. He deserves full credit as well.
Yeah.
And there was a little snippet of him and how disappointed he was about how this is being dragged out, not just for Stephen, but Brendan too. And he says it's just there's a huge imbalance of power between state and individual people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is true. You made a real good statement about that.
Yeah.
Because I think he cares just as much. He just maybe didn't come off as well, you know, on film or whatever. But that guy definitely cares too, and I think he deserves credit.
They both worked their ass off.
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
And they seem like really good guys.
Right. Good-souled, hearted people.
Well, it's like
down to earth.
I wouldn't even just want him to represent me. I think I'd want to be friends with them.
Right.
The one thing I wanted to point out about the technicians that did the blood sampling, Janine.
Sorry.
Was it
Janine?
Janine, yeah. Something that she made a comment about, and I think is very, very important for people to hear her say. She's a quality assurance analyst, or quality chemical analyst. That's what it was. Okay. Claims in what she observed for the results. they are inconclusive results.
Yeah.
There's no fact in there one way or the other, and that was coming then to the points where the test results were not saying EDTA was not present.
Mm-hmm.
What the test results are saying is that they were unable to detect EDTA.
Yeah. Yep.
That test does not conclude that it isn't there.
Yeah.
That's why it's such an unreliable test. And to back up to that fact, then they didn't even have a baseline to go from was the sample that they know had it in there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
how do you calibrate your equipment and verify the calibration
Without a base.
if you don't test something that you know is in there? And maybe that's part of their calibration, but when you get into testing your samples, how do you know your samples are accurate if you don't have a sample guaranteed with it?
Well, if you don't have the sample that it supposedly came from,
Exactly.
that's what they really need to be testing.
And
They weren't
why?
testing for that.
Why wouldn't you send that? You wouldn't send that if you were
If
the
you were
side
guilty.
not wanting to know if it was in there.
Yeah. 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 I've heard tells-
Knowing it's unreliable, and that if you come back with there's nothing in there, you can present it that the test shows it's not in there.
Right. Right. If you were a non-guilty party, why would you not want to be like, here, this is what they're claiming this is coming from. Can you
Right.
please test this as well?
And we made sure, because we sent all this possible evidence and the basis for where it originated from, that they claimed it came from, and it still came up that way. That would have been saying we got nothing to hide.
Yep.
But
Knowing
no.
correction officers, they know baselines.
Well, it's the same thing with the inconclusive result with the lady that supposedly was speaking, so her spit was in there. How was it admitted then? It should have been deemed inconclusive.
Right.
But she didn't do that. So here's two inconclusives right here. One, they sit there and say, oh, no, we don't have to throw that out, even though we know it's inconclusive. In this one, they know it's inconclusive, but we're going to use it anyway.
Right.
What the hell is that all about?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yep.
That's all mine on 7. I don't know what you
I
guys
had
have for 7.
one more
Got
note. Cheryl, do
7?
you have some?
I just had that Strang was pushing for Dassey, even though he had nothing to do with Dassey's case. His kind of heart going out to the family, being, when he came in and visited them, even after the case was over with, kind of.
It's episode 9, isn't it?
No, that was touching on the basis of the last episode, or last part of 7. And then I think it came back on the last part of episode 8, so. Yeah.
I just had the note that, again, they kind of ended up with Mike Holbrook again. That crazy weirdo, Therese's brother.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, saying that, well, from what I've seen of Stephen Avery, he's never told the truth. How the fuck does this guy know what the truth is? That's the questioning thing. And they've never investigated this guy.
No.
You apparently think you know the truth. Well, then what happened to her?
Right.
Because apparently you know, so you're fucking guilty.
And what happened to the last case that he was dismissed on because he was not guilty? Oh, okay, so all of his testimony was a lie then?
Right, that's
Fucking idiot.
He doesn't
That
know
guy's an
anything,
idiot.
but
No.
he acts like he knows something, and I kick myself every time hearing that, going, why the hell didn't anybody investigate this idiot?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I swear he had something to do with it. He
Right.
knows way too much to be sitting there, the truth. You know what the truth is. You're the liar.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want the truth to be whatever gets you the furthest thing away from any kind of involvement whatsoever.
Yeah.
He probably beat her up or something the day before and then doesn't want them to know about that.
Right.
I think
Huge red flag.
minimal amount of involvement that he has, in my opinion, has to do with the missing messages.
Right, but the question is why? That's the thing.
Right.
I don't-
Why would you erase messages from your missing sister's phone?
And not necessarily that he erased them, but he heard them. And this is my suspicion. Either he did erase them or he didn't, but either way he heard them. And it comes into play that the voice that was on there, he knows it wasn't Stephen Avery. He doesn't know exactly who it is, but he has a reason to suspect it's somebody around the Avery family. And since he doesn't know who it is, he's just allowing this person to be the one taking the blame, since the police evidence is saying this is who it's pointing at, even though it's not necessarily accurate. And then, of course, then he'll buy into and believe the bullshit that he has got some magical way of cleaning up blood out of stuff and somehow turning a corpse in a fire pit into nothing. So that's where I think his involvement is in a reality base. I wouldn't be against saying that could be further than that. But I think he knows enough of something, and he's just allowing it to play into where he can blame it too.
He just throws off dingers in my head. Ding,
Yeah.
ding, ding, ding,
If
ding.
he cared about his sister's death as much as the normal person would, you would be more involved with the facts and more involved with what actually really friggin' happened.
Even questioning what's going on yourself.
Right.
Going, I don't understand how they're coming up with this.
Right.
Right.
Even if he was the one who deleted those first couple messages, maybe it was
Or
just
just even heard them.
right.
at
Maybe it was just
minimum.
grandma saying, "Hey, how's it going? Call me today,"
Yeah,
or
say
something.
what they were.
Well, you fucking hit 7. Delete message,
You
deleted.
even remember the number to hit.
Right,
to
it
delete a
is.
message. I couldn't
You don't
tell
remember
you.
that?
Oh, fuck, I have no idea.
See, we have office phones, so
right,
we
right.
remember the number.
7's delete.
You're listening to your office phone and you're going, oh my God, I've already talked to this person. 33-7.
Right.
Fast forward, delete.
So if he was the one who was hitting 7 on all these messages, whatever that were deleted, now he's kind of involved himself.
Absolutely.
And now he's like, "Whoa, it's too much
That's why-
on me. I'm gonna place it. Let's throw it out there."
Sure, and that's why I even say, even if he didn't delete them, he just heard them.
Yeah.
He's got information.
He's got information
And
that
it's
he's not
failing.
revealing.
There's just something more about him deeper than that I get a feeling from him. I mean, he's very full of himself. He thinks he's very well learned.
Right.
And he thinks he's very well spoken, and so he's a spokesperson for the family. But I'm like, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Come to school here. You wouldn't even be able to pass 2nd grade.
Right. Yeah. He's not very bright.
That's the end of episode 9 for me. I don't know about
7.
you guys. Oh, 7.
You keep bringing up 9.
I do, because I thought we were doing 8 and 9. I'm sorry, I'm getting confused.
Jumping way
We've been
ahead.
2 at a time.
I know. So
It's
we're
an
doing,
even number. Odd even.
Yeah.
Starts with 1, ends with
Did
an
I
even.
get these numbered right then? Oh yeah. Okay. So we did. Okay. So 8. Yeah.
So
Then
my
we're doing
notes
9 and
start
10,
to get
I
a
got it.
little crazy on 8. So if somebody else wants to start.
Well, I'll keep
I
reading
can't really
on
read
8
my
if you
writing.
want.
Yes, please
Okay,
do.
so unless you want to, Dan.
I can. I actually have a note from the very first.
So do I. So yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
I
Put it first.
thought it was very endearing and kind of hard to watch with Stephen Avery's dad. Being this old,
the fish,
nice guy,
yeah.
and he's like sitting there and he's like, "Oh wait, I gotta find this. Hang on, I might have walked too fast. I probably walked past it."
Yeah.
And then he scuffs his foot on the ground. And it says it's Stephen cut into the concrete. He's like, "I did that.
I did
I did that when he was the first time he was in jail. Just waiting for him to come out." And he goes, "Then I converted he converted a building." He's like, "That's why I got this building." And he made these huge fishery tanks because he's like, "We're gonna raise fish together, me and Steve." He built everything by hand. I'm like, this guy,
These
people like
they're
that,
skilled
people like that
craftsmen.
don't raise psychopaths.
No, not at all.
No. Yeah.
The first thing off of episode 8 that I have was the defense attorney. One of them had made a statement, and what the statement was saying
Kratz did.
is he was pointing out to be accused is to lose. That is what our judicial system, our legal system has come down to. You never get your reputation back, was his point. Stephen Avery was accused. He's losing is the way it's going at this point.
Oh, that was Dean that said that. That's right.
Right.
Yep.
And even if you are found to be innocent, your reputation is destroyed and you can never get that back.
Yeah.
It's gone. And that's not the way our legal system was ever set up or intended to be set up. But that's the way it's typically going, and it's obviously happening here.
Yeah.
He was accused and he's been guilty from day one,
Yeah.
and it's a shame.
Yep.
There's
Even with the
no chance.
1985 case being,
Exonerated.
he that was still brought up
Yeah,
in this
absolutely.
case. Like, why is that even a fucking fact? Why is this even being brought up in any kind of
Yeah,
material
shouldn't have been.
whatsoever?
Should never be consideration
Exactly.
ever.
Exactly.
And Kratz started off by saying that reasonable doubts are for innocent people, which bothered me a little bit. That's what he said. He goes like, reasonable doubt is for innocent people. Not necessarily. Reasonable doubt is the baseline that you're looking for when you're
Yes.
convicting a case.
Yeah.
I would chalk up reasonable
Beyond
doubt
a reasonable doubt.
is where you balance evidence supporting a guilty plea and evidence to support not having a guilty plea. That's where reasonable doubt comes in.
Yeah.
This is the evidence we have, and this is the side of the fence that says this is supporting why they're guilty, and this is the side that says this is why they're supporting it's not guilty. And from that information, you get to determine reasonable doubt being accurate to which side of the fence that goes to. That, to me, what it is, not... How could you possibly even say, as a prosecuting attorney, a district attorney, reasonable doubt is for innocent people?
Right.
Well,
that's what your fucking job is
they're
based
guilty
on.
off the start, is what you're saying.
Right. That's exactly, that was his intention, because this manipulating asshole, that's what he wanted to imply on the jury, that's saying, if you're going to take this case as reasonable doubt, then you're wrong. That's how it came off to me.
Right.
Like,
His closing arguments are fucking totally...
He's so full of himself.
He's
but
crooked.
that's what I mean.
He's crooked.
He is crooked. And I have a hard time with people like him because I've had many of them in my life. So I get this icky feeling. Yeah. And I know when I meet somebody with that icky feeling, I want nothing to do with them. Yeah. This guy I actually want to pummel.
Right. You haven't even met him. You just seen him on TV.
I just saw him on TV and I've heard him on radio and, seen him on the news or whatever. I want to hurt this guy.
So the episode 8 kind of came down to the closing arguments of the case.
Yes,
that we're talking to. About. And one of the statements, so we're really going to be talking about it from what my notes are, pulling statements that they made out of their closing arguments. One of the ones that I had from the prosecuting attorney, if officers are planting evidence to ensure someone they feel is guilty is found guilty, then planting evidence should not matter.
Right.
How in the fuck do you say shit like that and believe that?
Planting evidence should not matter.
That's incredible in all senses of the word.
So what you're saying is that if somebody's guilty, then committing a crime to prove that they are is okay.
Right.
Yep.
It's okay for that. It's okay for officers to plant evidence.
I think we know he's guilty, so
I think the way the law is designed to be that if the person's guilty and they're found guilty and the officers planted evidence to prove that, then they go on trial for committing a crime on top of that. Not that it's okay. Oh, no big deal. You helped us out.
Deal.
That's bullshit.
Oh, just push it under the rug. Fucking idiot.
Well, and I think Dean even made a rebuttal comment to that, saying that police don't plant evidence for an innocent man. They do it because they believe that the guy is guilty.
That was the starting statement.
No, there's a couple before that.
I think this was the
you're right. That was prior to right. Sorry, that was his statement, and then Kratz rebuted that with saying it shouldn't matter if they planted the evidence.
Right. Yeah, that fucking blew my mind.
I actually have written on here, guys, verify with Eric and Cheryl, because I wasn't sure I heard it right, but apparently I did.
Did you hear so if you have the statement that the defense attorney made prior to that, read it. Do you have it?
I do. I have something about along the lines of that Krantz.
What about Dean before that?
No, I don't have anything before that.
Okay.
For the defense, no.
I have Dean said that police don't plant evidence for an innocent man.
Right. They
do it because they believe he's guilty.
Right. And you have to understand that what people, in my opinion, will hear from that, well, they think he's guilty, that's why they're doing it. No. Don't misinterpret the English language and the words that are placed in here. Be clear in understanding they don't plant evidence against somebody they believe is innocent, that they want to frame.
Right.
They plant evidence against somebody they think is guilty and want to make sure that they're set up to be guilty.
And again, neither of the statements that we made was verbatim. But that, obviously we have very much of the similar. Right. That's what they were saying.
But that's what they're talking about in that aspect, is that they convicted this man before they decided to even pull out evidence and say this is it. They thought he was guilty off the start. Yeah. And so they just made sure that things lined up right so that they could get a guilty verdict out of it.
Yeah.
That's what they were doing. Well, then he isn't even presumed innocent.
Right.
And that's what our legal system is supposed to be about.
And what did you say last night?
Never is. You're guilty until presumed innocent.
Yeah.
Eric
even made a comment, because Eric actually had to stop the show because he was so just put out by that comment. And this is what you said, Eric. Then how does it even matter if anyone breaks the law? If it's okay for the officers to do, it's okay for the law to do.
Exactly. Yeah. We're all just fucking breaking the law. Who
cares?
No
shit. I mean, come on. What the hell does it matter then? I mean, if they're going to break the law to prove that you broke the law, well, then that's the same. He said the same thing. Then who gives a shit?
Yep.
I broke it. Don't worry about it.
Well, how about the comment that Kratz made before that about saying that because they found a bill of sale in an Auto Trader magazine in the trailer, she was in that house.
Right.
She was
Because
in
nobody
that house.
else owns an Auto Trader magazine.
And you can't just be handed that stuff and bring
No.
it in yourself.
Exactly.
And put it in your
gosh, no.
fucking trailer as a
Can't.
bill of sale.
That's official documentation.
Yeah.
You can't just hand that off to somebody who needs it to
Right.
walk it into their house. That's no. They needed a Brinks truck to do that
Yeah,
shit.
exactly. She had to have her DNA evidence on the bill of sale.
Yeah.
I'm
Did
sorry.
they even scrub that for her DNA? By the way?
Exactly.
I
I
mean,
don't think so.
No.
this is fucked up.
Yeah.
And then the funny thing after that is that when they were talking, Kratz was kind of saying like the corruption piece, like if you believe this, you're saying that the police are corrupt. And then basically he alluded to like, well, nobody's smart, as if anyone's smart enough to basically pull one over on the cops, like
Right.
to set somebody else up and they wouldn't notice it.
Well,
Oh, okay, criminals only do it all the time.
Right,
But-
right. It's just diminishing evidence is what I had. You know, yeah.
You're right. It was diminishing evidence.
The next note I have gets into the jurors, so I don't know if you have anything prior to that with more of the closing statements.
Yeah, I had Kratz was just laying it on heavy.
Oh,
Can
yeah.
you really make that decision that your county sheriff's department did this crime? You know, just really trying to emphasize on the fact of trying to make the jury feel guilty for incriminating their sheriff's department for possibly setting up a crime. You know, he just laid it on real heavy.
It's almost like a guilt trip he was laying on.
Absolutely.
That's manipulation.
Right.
How does that even...
Let me just spread the gravy a little bit thicker.
Which again is something I'm immune to.
Is
Guilt
this-
trips.
Yeah, just,
that just irritates me. But fuck you then, man.
yeah.
I don't even support your side then.
Right, exactly. If I were a juror on that stand, I'd be like, you know what? Yeah, maybe. You know,
Well,
Maybe
Cheryl,
you
you'd
did
really
it.
make time for a date with me if it really mattered.
right? Oh God, don't even get me started on that shit.
She
oh,
just guilt
gosh.
tripped the other day.
We'll, if we got time, we'll bring that up. 'cause
That's
I've
a
got-
funny story.
I've
Yeah,
got,
bring it up.
I got an opinion on
So
this
let's move
next
on
one,
to the
but-
jury.
So what I have is that you learn that on the second day of deliberations, one juror had to be dismissed for a medical emergency, and that produced a situation which Stephen had some decisions to make. One of them was replace a juror. The other one, I think, was to continue with just one less juror.
The other was a
And the
mistrial.
last one was a mistrial. And none of us here know this, and I didn't have time today in my busy work schedule to research this, but I was really curious to understand what happens. And if anybody knows, make a brief comment about it. What happens with a mistrial? Does that mean Steven still sits in jail and they start this whole fucking process over? Or is this just like, oh, sorry, we screwed up. Have a nice day. Go home.
Right.
And we'll redo the evidence. And
Right.
if we find more of it, then we'll bring you back in and we're going to do this again.
Right.
I mean, where does this come down to when it's considered a mistrial?
And
'Cause
is it different in individual counties or
State by state,
Right,
I mean,
or is
yeah,
this like a
it's-
federal
Case by
law?
case.
Right. I mean,
Yeah,
how
definitely.
does that
People
work?
comment if you know anything about mistrials. What
Right,
happens?
right.
Why maybe you think that he didn't choose the mistrial?
I
You know?
think he didn't choose the mistrial because he thought it was in the bag. I think
Right.
he knew he was innocent.
which could have been a situation.
Or at least
for
he
sure.
felt he knew he was innocent,
Yeah.
and he thought it played out really well. And so he was like, "No, I don't want to keep going through this. I want this over with." And I think they did a really good job. You know, that's
Right.
what somebody I think.
I think that with the mistrial, this is just going on what I maybe possibly know what mistrials is. I think that maybe he was thinking of his family, thinking that I don't want to have them have to go through this whole case over again, which we've already been through. But it would have been so much easier.
That makes sense for that.
know?
I mean, I think both of you or one of you pointed out last night when I posed that same question was there might have been cost issue. It might have
Right.
been, well, that was all a waste of money. Got to pay for it again.
Right.
Right.
I mean, we really don't know. So the attorneys that are listening, why don't you let us know how this works?
Yeah, we're reading your comments. Definitely.
So, but yeah, that came up, and
Maybe not the armchair attorneys,
yeah, a
but
real one.
actually licensed.
If
Yeah.
you know, great.
Yeah, Beauty, Strang. Hello.
We know you're listening. So yeah,
Right.
I mean, the other thing too is like bringing in a stranger. You don't know what the hell they've been hearing and listening to, and
Right.
The news, I mean, all
Right.
around. Holy
and how
crap!
horrible media is.
Oh my God,
in general.
that's terrible.
I mean,
Terrible
I would've-
media.
Personally, if it was my choices, I wouldn't have brought in a straight person.
No.
I would have
Gone
went
with
with
the
one
11.
short.
I would have gone.
Otherwise, the mistrial thing, if that was even a better option. But if it wasn't, then I'd go short because in the end, there's one person that's got to go one way or the other to go over the half.
Because you have an even number. Nice.
Yeah.
That's right.
No, I agree. I would have gone with one less.
Right.
Yeah,
so,
that's probably what I would have done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I guess maybe that is not even good either, but who knows?
Yeah.
So that was my question to that is why you didn't do the mistrial, and again we don't have enough information to understand that. They interviewed. Had an interview with Stephen over the phone during the no, it was in person during the deliberation. That's right.
Yeah.
There was just reading that, there was no signs of worry on his face.
Right.
He felt like they've seen this. I didn't do anything. They've got to see that. It was like, how could they not see that I didn't do this?
Yeah.
He had no concern or worry. Like if you were guilty. Like, oh man, I hope this works. I mean, maybe that's a little dramatic, but you at least seen some concern in his face. Nothing.
No.
He was like, I did 18 years for nothing already, and I didn't do this. How could they not see that this is some bullshit?
Right.
That's the only, to me, that's almost the only question in his face was how could this go any other way? Because I know I didn't do this.
Right, because he's had such horrible experiences in the past, of convictions. You'd start to believe somewhat there's got to be some kind of justice within this whole system. Mm-hmm. Where is it?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think I don't remember if he expressed this or if it was just some other conclusion I had, but the only thing that I read from it was whether or not he was going to lose and suffer for something he didn't do again. Mm-hmm. I mean, that to me, he almost looked like he didn't have worry, but he had a bit of emotion. Like, if I have to do this again, I don't. Why?
Man,
just the question of why to that is just so powerful that he wouldn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
How could you?
And I think that jumped on to the second part of episode 8. That's why I made a note was the expression on Avery's face. Mm-hmm. He was just in disbelief. Like, are you kidding me? I have to fucking go through this again.
And at this point,
just defeat.
Right, defeated with no light at the end of that tunnel at that point.
No.
So we've already jumped the shark. We're already because they found him guilty.
Well, no, we can back up to
right. Okay.
Stuff,
okay. Sorry. That broke my heart though when I saw that.
Well, what broke my heart is when he was on the phone with his mom before the verdict came through, saying that he's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. He's contemplating suicide. Basically, he's like, I might just take the easy way out. He's like, I can't even imagine having to do a life bit for something I didn't do. I mean, he was actually talking about it, and his mom's just quiet. She doesn't know what to tell him.
Right.
Yeah.
And
that was the thing is the jury took a long time to deliberate, which initially they were really excited about because if they wanted him to be guilty, Buting said they would have come back immediately. Mm-hmm. They were just kind of like playing the game, but they would have come back. And they actually asked for all of Bobby Dassey's testimony to be read back. And the judge was like, well, we can't read all of it back, which I don't understand. If the jury asks for something, you're supposed to do it. Right. I don't care how fucking long it is. I don't care if it's 5 hours. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to read that back.
Yeah.
You can't tell them, well, we can't read all of it back to you. What parts do you want?
Jesus.
Yeah. Idiots.
Now, how do you restrain a jury from making a decision with evidence when you won't give them the evidence?
Right.
And expect them to make the right call.
But it showed that this jury was actually doing the job that they were tasked to do. They're like, we need we need this read back to us. Mm-hmm. They were talking about it. They were discussing it. It wasn't cut and dry.
Would that be withholding evidence?
Yeah, I think it technically
information,
would be.
Evidence, either way, maybe.
Yeah.
And then before the verdict, Dean was talking to the family and preps him about, this is something I never thought of until I saw it. And I was like, oh, I never thought about that. He's like, so good or bad? He's like, but if he's found not guilty, he goes, you guys, you get out, you say hi to Steven or whatever, you get out, you go home and make sure nobody's following you.
Yep.
Nobody should be following you. If anybody's following you, you come back here and you get the sheriff's office because, there's going to be some upset people that, may want retaliation.
Manitowoc County.
Right. So don't ask them for the escort home. Ask Calumet.
Don't be expecting a police escort.
Escort
they
home.
shouldn't be helping you out.
Exactly.
So did anybody get the counts? Because I got the counts down when they actually came
I
through
do
with the
too.
verdict. Okay, go ahead.
But where we had the guilty for homicide
Yep.
and gun possession. So 2 of the 3 things that he was being charged with. Not guilty for mutilation of a corpse.
Right.
Now, one thing I found very, very strange. I don't understand how that this is very strange. First, you say that he killed her without any evidence showing that he did. And you have a mutilated corpse, but he's not guilty of doing that.
Right.
Well, what would stop him from doing that if he killed her?
Right, but what the jury's task is there enough evidence to convict on that? So it doesn't matter if it happened or not. Is there enough evidence shown, proven
That he did that.
That he did that, and
So-
they're saying no, there was not.
Right. That's why I question. Okay, if he's guilty of the homicide, how could he? And there's not enough evidence to say he's guilty of mutilating the body.
Mm-hmm.
How would you in your mind even go? Well, if he didn't mutilate the body because there's not evidence proving that. With the bullshit evidence they had saying he murdered, how could you even go to that's enough?
Right.
Yeah.
How would homicide be? Yeah, exactly.
So the
You can't
evidence they prove with a mutilated, burnt body on his property,
which he didn't do,
but yet he killed her
but
without any blood anywhere on his property
Right.
from a killed body that somehow got mutilated and killed elsewhere.
Right.
I don't understand.
No.
And that's still kind of the question today. But
And
the
but
last one
having
makes
a gun,
me funny.
A gun
Right.
possession.
The possession
Big
of the
fucking
firearm.
deal.
He's guilty. Everybody's guilty of that. I
Right.
mean,
He
doesn't have a gun?
Okay, I have a felony.
yep.
You
But he was exonerated.
right? Okay,
So
let's
how
just
does he
say-
still have that as a charge?
But I've mentioned this to you before. Exonerated doesn't mean they admitted they're wrong and that you're not guilty. It just means you can get let go.
That's stupid.
Right. So let's just say that you guys have firearms on the property. I would be convicted of a felony of a possession of a firearm because
Proximity.
of proximity.
In the location you're at.
And they've already admitted that they have shotguns on the property. You know?
They were never hiding that fact.
Exactly. So they that was just a guilty automatic.
Automatic.
Yeah.
Right. That was a low ball charge
Yeah,
coming
it
from
was.
the,
That's just
the
bullshit.
county.
Yeah.
It was an automatic, easy charge to get.
Which is really only technically 5 years.
Yeah, and okay, big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, I got a shotgun in my house. I mean, he would have said that.
Yeah.
He didn't ever deny having shotguns anywhere. Nobody ever did that.
Right. So if
And-
he's guilty of anything, that's it.
Right. And that's why I still come back with that.
Yeah.
You had these charred remains, but he didn't do that, but yet you had no blood from a body that you claim he killed.
Right. That he homicide.
I just don't
yeah.
get it.
And I should
No.
rephrase that because when we were talking about it, I said, who doesn't have a gun? I mean, in that rural
That
setting.
rural area?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Everybody has a gun out there.
I'm sorry,
Right.
in Manitowoc County, in my opinion, I
yeah.
will stress my opinion, everyone there could have a felony, and everyone there has got more than one gun yet. They don't care.
Yeah.
If you have a farm, you have rodents, you have rats, you're going to have a shotgun.
Damn right.
Yeah.
Even a pellet gun. I don't care.
You have a property like they do, you don't have security, you're going to have guns because
Right.
some people are going to be stupid. You got to protect yourself.
Yeah.
Like Isanti County. Yeah.
Right. Like
Same
Isanti.
thing.
There you go.
Exactly like Isanti
I swear
County.
everybody in Isanti has a... No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
One thing that I wanted to point out was that Strain said something about redemption will have to wait.
Yep.
The criminal justice system failed Stephen Avery for the second time. We have not recorded that level. We have not come to that level to overcome. God, I'm sorry. I'm trying to read my notes from last night, and they're all fucked up. But something about the fact that we have not come to that level to overcome inhumanity, to overcome the justice at this time and day. I don't know if that makes any sense. That was just a very fair point.
It sounds like the point that he made that he was speaking of that it's just kind of sad that in humanity's level today,
Justice isn't
the
fair.
justice system has not improved past where it currently is.
Exactly. It's still kind of like the 1900s
Yep.
kind of type of theory.
And I thought it was funny that Kratz was like gloating, but not trying to gloat. He's trying to be all serene and everything. But you can just feel he just waiting to explode with energy.
Just squeezing his penis.
Yeah, squeezing it really hard. No. And then at the end, I just want to thank everybody for allowing us to host this event for you. And he's smiling.
Right.
You hosted what? You're in another county.
Yeah.
And they're hosting you, moron.
Yeah.
And you're talking to the news people saying, we just want to thank everybody for allowing us to host this year. I mean, he's just so, like, giddy, stupid, happy
he
that
did
you
get
can't
an
even...
award, right?
Yeah, he did get an award for that. Mm-hmm.
He's practicing his speech.
Right.
Idiot.
Gross. Yeah.
I did like how Dean and Jerry refused to comment on Brendan's case. Mm-hmm. They're like, we're not going to comment on how this would affect this case. We're not going to comment at all. That's,
And then my next note is to that effect.
Okay.
I found it very honorable that not only did they deny wanting to speak to that, what they said is, we're not going to comment, or we shouldn't comment, and then he repeated, and neither should you.
Yeah.
Right.
What he was instructing, he was just told the media, do not speak of Brendan. That way he's allowed to have a better start to his trial than Stephen got.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that they did, that they did mention before, those 3 counts that were added on later that they were trying to get rid of, was those things were brought to light, thrown all over the media, and then to try to get them off, people had it in their head all that stuff was added on there for a reason that wasn't true.
Right.
And so even though they got them removed, everybody already had that stuff in their head, and you can't deny that isn't going to float around as a factor to judge him.
Mm-hmm. Just watching the media portrayal, it's just like, you disgusting human being. I don't know. Just some of the, the defense, they were completely deflated today. It's like, you fucking horrible person. I don't know.
Yeah, well, and that's not really wrong to say. I guess that's just what took place. I think that, when we were seeing all the news coverage that was coming up, the things that they were throwing up there, it's like, wow, that's a bold statement to make right off the bat. The guy was just getting arrested, and all of a sudden he's all that.
Right.
Have you gotten evidence yet? No, but the police made the accusation, so then it's true. I mean, now you've learned that that's not necessarily accurate, well, at least hopefully.
Yeah.
And, here in Minnesota, it's been, our media people have been praised that, they're pretty good. I don't think they all are. There's a few great ones, but...
One.
That's Tim Blatz, I think it is. Oh, that
sounds like Count Dracula.
Funny. Yeah, in his earlier years he did. But Jeff Passolt, he's a cool guy. I like listening to him. He's pretty laid back. But
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I hate to say it in generalized statements just because I know there are some good people in media, but the media is just horrendous.
Yeah, they're horrible.
Because for them, it's all about money. It's still a business. It's about money, and it's about ratings for the money.
Exactly.
And yet...
It's about personal opinion.
Right, and that's what they're throwing in there.
You mean like what we're doing right now?
Right.
But now, this is where I come into play. We are doing that, and we have a voice because of the internet. We cannot deny that fact, but we're not doing it for money.
We're not doing it for money.
Personal perspective.
We're not doing it for ratings.
And we're telling you.
Nobody knows about us.
Well, I do want ratings, people. Come on. So, but it's just from the information we're gathering and making our own opinions about it, and we're not telling you that this is the accurate way. We're just saying this is what we see and we observed, and what we found to be right and wrong.
Right.
So it's... we don't have 1.2 billion people watching us going, oh, yeah, they're right.
Right.
It's not that I wouldn't want that many people listening, but I'm not going to go out and accuse somebody for something just from some shit I read and they said that's what happened. It's like, well, did it? I'm still going to question that.
Right. I'm excited for people to make their own decisions about what we're reviewing and about the case themselves.
Because here's an admission, folks. We all could be dead fucking wrong. This guy could be a whacked out nut job that smart to clean up a dead body and whack that chick.
It could be. I'd just be very surprised.
I'd be shocked.
Right. And I would easily shove my foot right in my mouth.
I would too, and I would admit that I'm wrong. But
I'll do it on camera. I don't care.
I'm doing this off of the feel and the judgment that I have off of the massive psychological research that I've done on people in general and human nature and crime you know.
Come on, Jeff Passolt and folks, let's hear you say that on air.
Right,
Did
right.
you guys speaking of the news media
Nudie?
stuff, yeah.
Nudie media.
The news media stuff.
What channel is that?
What bogus purpose did it serve for them to release Andy Colburn's retarded statement about, I hope that this verdict releases all allegations of the corruption of the police force. Didn't that seem to you like overkill?
Yeah, a little bit.
Because you're guilty.
Please don't lose faith in us.
Don't lose faith that we have the best people in the country.
Sound like an opportunistic plea for gaining people back on their side.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And then Scott's comment was, all right, this is the one thing that's funny about the news. They do seem to put the dumbest person on that they can, that people that can't fucking speak. And his comment was literally, he got what he got coming to him.
Right.
For Scott Tadic or whatever.
Tadic.
Yeah. And he's a in-law himself in Manitowoc.
Right. What was it? Let's read it again.
Yeah, he said he got what he got coming to him.
He got what he got coming to him.
Yeah, he got what he got coming. Gots.
Gots.
G-O-T-S.
God.
Excuse me, sir. What did you say?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Take the dick out of your mouth. Because literally, I have a comment in here saying, dude with the dick in the mouth. And then later on, I put Scott Titus right next to it. So, yes. Take the dick out of your mouth and fucking speak correctly.
Here's a piece of advice for everybody in the world, okay? If you're going to dumb down your speech on purpose to sound street and cool, you're a fucking idiot is what you are. And you sound like a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Okay? Improve your speech and sound like you have intelligence and an education. That will get people to listen to you.
Exactly. Especially with media representation.
Right,
you know,
right.
we already know we have to dumb it down for the media.
Right. No
Don't
shit.
make us dumb it down for your fucking, linguistics as well.
Tell your neighbor that statement. Don't
Yeah.
tell it to the world.
I even do that in my personal life, you know. If our son posts something online and it's all ghetto sounding and isn't spelled correctly and it tags me, I untag myself and delete it.
Right.
Right.
And then I'll tell him in person, you need to speak correctly.
Right.
Don't include me with your dumb.
Your dumb
okay?
ghetto slang.
Your
I know you don't
dumbness.
talk like that, so don't
Yeah.
try to be cool because it's not cool. It's stupid.
No.
And when we were raising the boys, we would even tell them that
Damn
when they were
right.
trying. It's like, you know what? Don't talk like a fucking idiot, okay?
Yeah.
Maybe your friends at school do that, and you think it's cool. Don't they sound stupid to you?
I was like, you don't live in the hood?
Right.
Even if you do live in the hood, how about you speak English correctly?
Right. Because not everybody lives in the hood. Yeah.
So one note I had, I don't know if you had something up.
I have a whole nother
Okay.
comment.
I have
So
like three.
the accused juror number the
Richard Mahler.
Yep, he had pointed the excused, not accused.
Accused?
He had pointed out his experience in the day and a half that he was there, and he made a comment that there was 3 stubborn, which he implied were the guilty verdicts
From the start.
from the start that may have prevented justice from happening.
Yeah. There was 7 not guilty.
7 not guilty.
3 guilty, 2 undecided.
Yep, you're right.
Yep.
And from what his statements were and his I guess his body language is he had a very strong opinion that those 3 people prevented anybody else from
Right.
going their way. They weren't going to change their mind.
Nope.
Well, and kind of strong-armed weaker
Yes.
people into
Right.
changing their verdicts.
Right. And can you imagine? I mean, you guys have both been kind of on a jury verdict. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine just extending it and extending it and extending it and extending it because 3 people won't break?
Yeah, and
Do you think
I'll be honest.
that these people? I kind of had the feeling that these 3 kind of might have been paid.
You know, and
Could have been.
there was nothing said about that, but it's, you know, how else would you really read that?
Right.
Now,
Like, don't break until the guilty
Yep,
decides
just stay with
decides
it.
guilty.
Who cares?
Yep.
We had people try to do that in one of the grand jury trial things, and we would not budge. I was like, no, this is the guilty. And they were saying I'm not guilty. And I was like, no, this is guilty. We did not come to unanimous decision. It was a split decision.
Okay.
Yeah, if I
Okay.
was on a jury, first of all, you don't want me on a jury because if I see what I think is enough evidence that you're guilty, I'd prefer to just fry your ass, get rid of you, and I got no problem saying it. But if I'm in that position and I find that this isn't right, I don't care how long it takes. You fuckers are going to be here forever until you see it my way.
So would you have stayed on that jury?
I think I
it
would
was
have
a
stayed
Stephen
there
Avery?
saying, no,
Okay.
this is not guilty. From the information we've seen, if
there
I
was
was
that
on
many
that jury,
missteps. Yep.
I'd be going in that room going, I'm sorry, you fuckers are wrong, and there is no way I'm saying this guy's guilty on this crap.
So and
Ain't
that's
happening.
that's kind of my interest is wondering what it takes to break a jury. You know, I mean, okay, would you stay on the jury for 6 months, 12 months?
I don't care how long it took. If I
pay,
believe
without medical,
because I can tell you, I was in a position doing a study once, and I'll keep this short.
Very
and
interesting.
we were in a split jury situation, or two juries actually, over a legal battle over an insurance claim, and being from real estate. You learned contract law in real estate school. I don't know if you remember that, Cheryl, but you understood what contracts meant and what the guidelines were. It was very clear. There was no diverting to what was implied in a contract. It is what it says, period.
Right.
And in the contract that we read, it said it was supposed to be one way. And I supported that way, and other people were disagreeing with that, and then all of a sudden, the people that were on my side started flipping over, and I was like, fuck, I'm going to lose this.
Right.
And this isn't real, so I don't give a shit. Fine, you're right. And then that was it.
Right.
But now if this was somebody's life in the balance, come on.
Right.
This is bullshit. No, you convince me that you're right.
Yeah.
And when I come back with the evidence that I say that makes you wrong, I want you to convince me that I'm still wrong with that.
Right.
And if you can't, shut the hell up and rethink it, because that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
What it's an unanswered question, in my opinion, it means that there is reasonable doubt.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yes, you're right.
And that's what you're going off of. And we had to remind the idiots that we were talking to that were saying, oh no, he's not guilty of that. I'm like, it's beyond reasonable doubt that he is. Mm-hmm. But you can't say, no, we can say that because we have all of this evidence, you know?
Right. What are people's breaking points when it comes to being on jury duty?
In my opinion, when it comes to jury duty, there's a lot of breaking points that come to a personal perspective. And one of them, the biggest in my opinion, is money.
Okay. So you do take what you
don't get paid anything.
No.
Because
so
whatever they pay you per day, you pay more in the parking of your damn car.
Right.
You don't get
that's
shit.
what sucks. That's what sucks about the judicial system. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I've had a couple glasses of wine. Anyways, which we do every time. Anyways, that's what sucks, is that if you have somebody's life in your hands, should it really matter? But it does. It does. Should it really matter how much time it takes to deliberate for a jury to decide one way or the other? Because they all have to decide on one before coming to, a conviction.
Conclusion. Yep.
A conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And these three, obviously, were not willing to break. So did the other 7 and the other 2 that were undecided just be like, you know what? I'm fucking tired. I'm sick of being here. I need to go back to work, to pay for my house, to pay for my mortgage, to pay for my family, to pay for my insurance.
All that comes to light.
Fuck it. Let's just go with whatever they're deciding. You know?
And you get
so
just a couple
frustrating.
people to switch over, and people will start seeing, okay, things are going that way. Maybe I'm wrong.
It's just,
and then they don't think for themselves anymore. I'm like, all right.
It just really needs to be reevaluated. Pay for these people's daily pay that they get.
Well, and don't require a unanimous vote.
Exactly. If it's a split decision,
let
then
it be a split decision. We came to a split decision. It was like, 12 people? It was 10-2.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's because we finally convinced one to come over to the guilty side.
See? Yeah. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's exhausting to think about.
That case went on for three weeks.
Yeah.
So,
people have to get to a breaking point where they're just like,
well, eventually you will, and that's the sad part about it.
Right, because it has really nothing to do with their lives continuing.
But all of a sudden you start being the people that's in the minority, and you start seeing the majority come the other way, and all of a sudden you're like, well, I don't want to be the one person that's all guilty for hanging these people up.
I don't want to be the one person that's carrying this kind of...
It's social pressure, it's financial pressure, and it shouldn't be that way. You should get paid, like you're at work. Like you're at work.
Exactly.
My next note, I'll just read through the last few I have, and we'll touch on them a little bit.
Some days I'd rather be in a jury than at work.
Yeah.
Pete Bates, at the end of episode 8, the retorter was saying he accused Kratz of poor professionalism, poor responsibility.
Yep.
And poor handling of the entire case. It was just terrible.
Yeah.
His comment was that he wasn't seeking the truth; he was seeking a conviction, which we would naturally look at a district attorney as that's pretty much what their goal is. Well, that's a goal in their job, but if that's not just it, though, what they're looking for is finding the enough conclusive evidence to support the conviction, not just to seek the conviction.
And that's the thing is, I know the judicial system is very screwed up, corrupt, but really these people are publicly appointed. We expect them
The
to
district
seek
attorneys?
the truth, right? But they're still
They're
publicly
employed by the county.
right. They are public officials.
Right.
We expect them to seek the truth.
Either
I don't
way.
care who they're rubbing shoulders with, who they're like buddy. That's what they should be doing.
They should be doing, but they don't.
Right.
They don't.
They're
But that's
getting
what they
paid
should be doing.
to whatever position they're appointed to.
Right, but they are public
Sad.
people. They're public representatives,
Yeah, they don't give a fuck.
and they're not representing us appropriately.
No,
Especially when you're seeking conviction.
it's all about greed.
Yep. Yep.
After that, I have some next stuff moving into the next episode. They touched on a little bit that's going to probably come up, that attempts were made to get Brendan to take a plea of 15 years prison, 15 years probation, and they were all telling him, no, don't you do that, because
Can I
you're
interject?
going to live with that shit the rest of your life, and it's wrong, and that's not the truth. And so I think that's going to come up in later episodes, but it was an interesting thing to see.
But I wanted to mention that who was trying to convince Barb, who's Brendan's mother, to tell Brendan to take the plea bargain is Scott Tatich, again, dick in the mouth.
Dick in the mouth guy.
And if you noticed in this episode, all of a sudden Barb's name has changed from Barbara Dassey to Barb Tatich. That's her fucking husband now.
Right. She married
Telling
the
her,
faggot.
married the dick in the mouth idiot.
Sorry for my language.
And
yeah.
right, and is now
Sorry,
trying to convince
people.
her to tell her son to take a plea bargain.
Yeah. Married the asshole.
What the fuck
who
is that about?
Hates her stepbrother or brother
And her son,
and
apparently.
her son.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
So sorry, I just had to introduce.
No, that's good stuff.
Like who said it? Because that was ridiculous.
Because now he's coming into the web,
Right. While her son's in jail. Oh, I'm
Right.
sorry. I'm marrying Scott. Oh, I know
Who
that you're in
talks like
jail.
he got what he got coming to him? What the fuck is that? I'm sorry, Barb. You can do better.
Yeah. Please do better.
We got some bums here in Minneapolis you could probably pick up without a problem.
They'd probably be better than him.
Yeah.
So then we met Ray and Mark, which is Brendan's appointed attorneys, because, obviously they don't have any funds to get another attorney. And so I'm suspecting we're going to see a lot of them in the next coming episodes and see what they're about. And the episode ended, the ending note I have is with Brendan's mom telling him on the phone to tell the truth on the stand. Admit to lying about the statements you made is pretty much what she was telling him.
Yeah.
Just be honest. Don't get into anything that isn't true. Just stick to the facts. And that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy to go and admit that you lied about saying anything. But at the same time, I think it gets a lot easier when your life's in the balance of one way or the other. Admitting that you lied about some stuff is going to be pretty easy. But the downside is convincing people that you did that.
Right. And convincing people that you were telling the truth further-wise.
Right.
That's the hard thing about admitting that you lied previously.
I know I'm a liar. I lied and lied and lied. Now I'm telling you the truth. Really?
Right.
Really?
Right. Really? What the fuck? I don't know how to take that.
And really, when you look at him, though, he has something going for him that if it's presented correctly is going to be very, very beneficial. And that's his original first statements ever made. Never changed every time he reiterated that story. It was always the same.
Yeah.
The only story that ever changed was the lies that he was saying.
It was
that
the
he
story that they
pressured.
wanted him to say.
Right.
So that changed every
The
time.
pressured statements were always false. But
Yeah.
when it came down to what really happened, Brendan, just tell us the real truth.
That's the same
it
fucking
was
story.
never different.
Yep.
It was always the damn same. So, I mean, if that's presented in the right light, I mean, they're going to be able to see, if they're smart enough, they're going to be able to see that and go, wow, that story never changed no matter what. But every time they pressured him or, went through whatever they did, that shit was just never accurate.
And the fucked up thing about is when they take your statement, your recorded statement, is they'll say, nobody's pressuring you to say what you're going to say, right? Which is ahead of time. So what the fuck?
It's a tactic.
It's a tactic, exactly. So I can understand. Exactly. So Brendan, I can totally understand where you're at. Tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, and you know what the truth is. And fuck them other police officers. They have no idea. They're planting the evidence in your head. You know.
And he said that to his mom too. He's like, well, what about all the other stuff that they have on me? Yeah. She's like, what do you mean? He's like, all the other stuff that they have written down that they convinced me to say or whatever. She's like, that's what you need to say on the stand. You need to say exactly that. Yeah. They got to you. You were just guessing,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's the way it went.
Yeah.
That's all the notes I have. I think you still have some, Cheryl.
I had one more note. One very strong point that I thought was fascinating was that Strang visits the Avery family after the case has even been, done and over with and decided on. He doesn't have any reason to visit this family. He's not being paid to.
Especially in their family home.
In their home alone. When he's talking to them and he's, trying to, get their understanding of it and get them, he's not getting paid to do this. So why the fuck is he there? Because he actually gives a fuck. That was my only note on that one.
Yeah, and I don't know if Buting was there, but I could see him there too.
Yeah.
If he had some prior engagement, because these guys really did care, and I think they really cared about the family.
Yeah.
You could see in their personal interviews that they were just like, man, I can't believe this is going, this is insanity,
They were there beyond their payable time.
Yep. And one thing that the lawyers did say is they're like, so here's the interesting thing, is that one man, Kratz said, one man and one man only is responsible for this crime. So how can they now turn it around and prosecute another person for this crime too, even though it's a one man only crime that Kratz said in one of his closing statements?
Right.
What the hell is that?
Yeah.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
No. We're Mark Friedman and Friedman? Friedman?
Is it Friedman?
And Ray. I didn't get his last name.
Yeah, Friedman. I didn't get Ray's last name. Yeah.
Brenda's attorney said that there were a lot of things that were missed, and now they have to research and reevaluate all the evidence over again.
That's what my Mark said. He begged. Ray was like, well, he asked me, and Mark was like, no. He's like, let's not, say that. Let's tell the truth. I begged you to help me because there were so many major missteps that we're basically starting beyond the beginning. We have to go back, and it's such a huge load.
Yeah, I agree.
And so, at the conclusion of 8, we're moving on to be able to see
Episode
what's
9.
happening with Brendan. I think is going to come up, and I don't know how much of that is in the series. If the last 2 episodes are just on that or what, but I'm pretty sure 9 is going to be pretty focused on Brendan's stuff.
Yes. And 10 is pretty much like kind of the aftermath and whatever, but we have more after that too, so we'd probably do an extra podcast.
Oh, sure.
With all the new stuff.
Yep,
there's a lot of new stuff coming out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is turning out very exciting. We can get into the lighter, funny stuff now and read off some more late lines.
Sure.
And I trust you didn't throw yours away. They're laying around somewhere on the floor. Yours is behind you over there. I still have mine.
I threw mine away.
You did not.
I checked off the funny ones and threw the rest away.
Well, you're reading the rest.
The rest are not that funny.
It doesn't matter.
All right.
Full credit where credit is due here.
All right.
So once again, we're finishing off the funny excuses for being late by the youcanbefunny.com people. And I have been giving you credit for this, guys. Been putting your website on our podcast, so don't think I'm stealing your shit. I'm not. You can be funny. I'm writing down, making sure I make notes every time. Give people credit where it's due. So we're gonna have Cheryl just finish off her page. Whatever isn't marked, read them up.
All right. Well, what I have marked so far is we already did that one.
If you already did
this one isn't marked, is it? Oh, those are marked.
I'm sorry. I used up all my sick days. I'm calling in dead, which we've heard before. I thought this was a Jewish holiday.
That's not too bad. You
Right.
get away with that.
Right. Might do that tomorrow.
Can you mark
tomorrow?
them so we can-
Oh, yeah. My bank card got stuck in the swipe at Sears, which me and Jenny had an experience at the State Fair with.
Luckily, not us. The person
No,
in front of us, and
in
that
front of
guy
us.
was freaking out.
And Jenny was like, dude, I understand you're having a problem, but back the fuck off because
Yeah,
I'm
'cause
about
he
to
was-
put my password in.
He's like fucking bumping shoulders with me while I'm trying to put my card in. I was like, I know you're having an episode, but you need to relax and back off.
Right. I'm entering my passcode.
They'll get
Back
your
the
fucking
fuck off.
card back. Relax.
And this is literally what she said.
There's like a line down the fucking
Oh, yeah.
street.
He's
and
like crying on the phone.
Oh my god, he's all dramatic, and I was like,
He's like trying to invade her space. And she's like, dude, back off. It's kind of hilarious. I know I'm late. I will make extra special effort next week. Probably not.
you're reading the ones that are already marked.
Oh, she
No,
marked those
those-
just now.
Oh, I
Yeah.
got it.
I have a bit of a slight problem. I got the end of a Q-tip stuck in my ear and I have to go to the ER to get it removed. Hey, might use that one tomorrow. I had to turn up around halfway here because I drove off and left my gas cap on top of the gas pump.
Sounds
Okay.
very ghetto. Maybe somebody that's
Right.
inner city could use that.
Yeah. I had to take out the garbage and accidentally place my son's hamster in one of the bags. That's pretty fucking sad. Alright then. Alright. Next.
Want me
Go,
to-
Eric.
Okay. I forgot what day it was. I thought it was the weekend.
Nice.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Well, if you work Saturday, you get away with that on Monday.
Right.
Isn't it 2 days off? My route to work was shut down by a presidential motorcade.
Yeah.
Well, I think they would know if he's in town. Well, I don't
It
know.
was
I
the
never
president
know.
of Kirstanchian.
Oh, yeah.
Right, there you
I
go.
don't know. That's not even a real word
President
place.
of Caribou Coffee was in town. Yeah. I accidentally threw away my jewelry that was in a Ziploc bag away in the dumpster after I got back from vacation. This is not written well.
No, that was terribly written.
I have to try and find it. I'll try to be in later today. Okay.
Nice.
I had to teach the temps on how to use the equipment.
Nice.
Well, you'd be at work, wouldn't you?
Right.
Oh, the temporary house cleaning crew. That's what it was.
Oh.
Well, I'm just adding that. The radio was broken in my car, and I can't drive without music.
Nice.
My left turn signal was out, so I had to make all right turns to get to work. And a cop was following me.
Right.
I just added that in. I fell asleep in the shower.
Okay.
I've done that.
All three of those last ones would be fired if they were my employees.
Right.
My father didn't wake me up.
Wow.
Really?
Go to school, little one.
Right.
I was attacked by a raccoon and had to stop by the hospital to make sure it wasn't rabid.
A raccoon.
A raccoon.
Rackin'.
Rackin'.
Ra-
That's what it is on Trailer Park Boys.
Trailer Park Boys.
Raccoon.
Rackin'.
Rackin'.
I couldn't find my clothes. There were let me start that again. There were 3 wasps in my bedroom, so I hid under my bed for 3 hours until my mom came back from work. I came as soon as I could, though.
Nice.
Okay.
I had to go to bingo.
What?
Wow. You're like 80.
Oh, shit. I like bingo. It's been a while.
Mine?
That's my conclusion of
All
those.
right. So this one's actually sad. My dog died and I had to take him to the vet to get cremated.
Oh.
I would totally call in for that.
Yeah, I have called in for that.
Yep.
Although I wasn't there. But
Yeah, you couldn't come, but you were
I
pretty depressed.
yeah.
You couldn't come? So
I
let me get this
wouldn't
right.
come.
You called in on somebody else's dog.
Yeah.
Our dog.
My dog, too.
Yeah.
That's my baby girl.
Maya.
I was traumatized.
I know.
So I told Lynn, I'm sorry, I'm not coming in today. My dog is dying.
Mm-hmm.
Not technically my dog, but go ahead. Sorry, Jen.
Okay. All right. I just found out that I was switched at birth. Legally, I shouldn't come into work knowing my employee records now may contain false information.
That's a good one.
I had to feed my pet piranha. Fired. I tried to catch the newspaper from the paperboy, and the car keys flew out of my hand and over the bushes. So I had to search for 20 minutes just to find them.
Fired.
No, just kidding.
You're out of here.
I was losing my mind this morning. It took me half an hour to find it.
Fired.
Psycho.
Or it could
Yeah.
be. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
And we should probably get you a counseling appointment.
Right.
I'm
And
gonna get you some
maybe
extra pillows for your desk.
Oh, here's some of the people that, oh my God. Let me just preface this by saying I don't agree with Obama, right? I voted him for the first time. I did not vote for him the second time. I don't agree with what he's doing now, whatever. I'm not a big fan. But my right-wing buddies, everything seems to be Obama's fault. So the first line of this, I haven't even read through, but it just kind of reminded me of them. Mm-hmm. It says, it's all Obama's fault. He's responsible for everything that's going wrong in the world. At least that's what my dad tells me. Holy, yeah, I've heard that before. You wouldn't want to disagree with my dad. He's 6 feet tall and weighs 240 pounds. He'd pound you for sure.
Fired.
And you would think that's from a 6-year-old, but I've honestly heard it from grown adults.
Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong with people?
This one I actually like. I would not use it, but I would like it a lot. The bartender wouldn't let me leave.
That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Sorry, I overslept and I forgot to come in for my first day of work at my new job. Is it okay to come in now at the regular time?
Oh my God. Fired.
Done.
Yeah.
I was trying to get my gun back from the police.
Nice.
They were resisting me.
Yes. Resisting. My alarm clock kept going off when I was asleep. I couldn't even read that one because it was dumb.
Well, but it occurs to you daily.
Yeah, I sleep through my alarm, but I still get up on time. Oh, this is like for a teenager. My braces locked with my boyfriend's as we kissed each other. I had to get my girlfriend to help pull us apart. It was quite a scene.
Oh boy.
So
It took 12 hours?
it's like a
Why are you
bisexual.
kissing at 7 a.m.?
Bisexual.
We just fell
teenager.
asleep that way.
No.
Yeah. Weird.
Okay. I walked into a spider web on the way out the door and couldn't find the spider, so I had to go back inside and shower again.
Fired.
Done.
Yeah, pull that one.
Yeah.
I was on time, but then I saw the sign on the road. Wait, hang on, let me start that again. I was on time, but then I saw the sign on the road outside school that said children slow, so I couldn't rush. My wife is too sick to get out of bed, so I'm planning on staying home to take care of her. That one's actually viable.
Yeah.
You could totally use that one.
Yeah.
You didn't call me to wake me up. Fired
Nice.
immediately. I feel like I'm in everyone's way if I show up on time.
What the fuck?
Well, they're all in a hurry to do what they're doing, and I don't care.
Wow.
This would only fly in Minnesota on certain days because everybody knows when the parades are. It says I ran into a parade.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you work on Sunday.
Yeah.
And last, I won't say but not least because I don't know how bad it is. Let's see. I'll be in later this morning. My girlfriend's husband is dying and I have to be there to console her.
Oh boy.
Not bad.
Creepy.
My girlfriend's husband
Is dying and I have to be there to console her.
That's
That's
creepy.
that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
That's more of a Utah thing, isn't
Yeah, probably.
Any Mormon state, I'm sure.
Right.
Ohio or something. I don't know. Yeah.
it? Well, believe it or not, we're at 157.
That's pretty good.
Well, that 2 hours. Well, we got
We
done
just
with.
don't seem to be able to stop
Well, I tell you.
that tour mark.
Oh.
Well, we got done almost done with episode 7, and it was clicking on an hour
Okay.
before we moved on to 8.
Okay.
You know, I think the episodes just take about an hour to talk about it. I mean, we got 3 opinions going on here. It's
Yeah.
you know, the series or the show is 45, 48 minutes long, and so 3 people talking about it's probably going to be about that long too.
Well, so
Yeah.
people that are still listening and just kind of like putting something in, earbuds in at work or whatever, we appreciate it that, you know, you're
Yeah.
using us to kind of interject with your job. Might not follow us all along, but
Right.
Very
You can just
true.
post one or two word comments. We don't even care. We just want to know that you're
fuck
listening.
you is what they'll say. No, I'm
Right.
just kidding.
Fuck you. You suck or you rock.
I'll
Whatever it
warn
is.
you. You put the "you suck," I'm deleting that shit.
It's not, yeah.
We already know. We don't need it pointed out. These two have feelings.
We know we're amateurs.
Right. My sister have feelings. Eric does not. Whatever. It's
Right, I
all
have to-
around about.
I have to
table.
guard.
Yeah.
Guard
But-
everything.
But we do sincerely thank you, and
Yes.
we've got probably one more podcast minimum on just the episodes.
I would, yeah.
So
Yep.
it's roughly going to be about another 2-hour shot there, and then for the follow-up stuff that you find, I guess that'll take however long that takes.
Yeah.
But maybe at that point we'll even divide that up. If it starts cracking an hour, then we can cut that down, because we're not trying to cover two things at that point. It's just research. So
Yeah. Post your comments because we'll discuss those as well.
that's right. And we can do that after the review of this. So
Yeah.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you again for your time. We
Thank
appreciate it. This is Eric, Jen, and Cheryl closing out in the reel, and we'll check you out later.
Signing out.
Have a good night.